Hey guys, this is Chauncey from Good Music to Know, and today on Session Stories, we're joined by singer-songwriter Shannon Lay. Known for her gentle, deeply reflective songwriting and unmistakably soothing voice, Shannon's music exists as a kind of emotional and spiritual refuge for listeners. She creates a body of work that feels both timeless and grounding, and we're super stoked to have her here today, so welcome.
Thank you so much. Pleasure.
Yeah, so I went back and listened to all your stuff. I love your work, massive fan. And across your albums, there's this consistent thread of like empathy, healing, and transformation. So do you feel like you were visiting the same core ideas from different angles, or has your relationship to those themes changed over time?
What a lovely question. It's definitely always changing, but especially, I just finished my 5th record, and being that deep into my catalog, you obviously notice kind of the through lines. And I think ultimately there's always this undercurrent of encouragement. I love art and music in particular because it provides this like really down-to-earth way to get, a really impactful and deep message across. You're not anticipating the change. It can be a little more organic, I think. Something that you spend, time with day to day, and it's like kind of a functional friend is like really important to me. So, I feel like that's something I've noticed. It's really consistent. And then, obviously my relationship to like just living my life has changed so much as I do it. And so there's kind of new angles, and a lot of times songs I wrote years ago, I won't really understand until years later. So it's interesting to kind of feel the way we time travel in that sense too. And our higher selves are always, I think they're like always co-conspiring with the muse, so to speak.
Yeah.
And it's amazing.
You literally just answered the next question I have for you. Oh, I was going to say your music often feels like it's meant to comfort and guide people through something. And so I was going to say, when you're writing, is that something you're consciously thinking about? But I think you kind of just answered that. So I guess.
Yeah, that's for sure. And another thing I've come to take into account is kind of the mood that I'm in as I record the song, because it can be like a very, contagious energy. Like what you're bringing to the table is kind of then printed into the vibration of it. So I've come to be a little more aware of just like centering myself so that the message can be like well received. Yeah, that's important.
And then I know Living Water, which you came out with that like a while ago. I don't know if it's 2017 or something, but it still remains kind of like your most listened to on Spotify, with standout tracks like Recording 15, The Moon's Detriment, Always Room. So looking back now, what do you think that album captured that continues to resonate with people years later?
I love how that happens. I recently went and saw Patti Smith for the 50th anniversary of Horses. And it was just so cool to be in, obviously a packed house of people who have had their, some of us our whole lives to kind of sit with that music. You know what I mean? So it's just so lovely to see how things age. And that record turns 10 next year. And it's been so cool to watch people find their meaning in it. Obviously a lot of my experience is in my music, but I like to consider keeping it broad and poetic so that you can kind of take it in and make it yours. And I think with that record and Recording 15 in particular, that wasn't even going to be a single initially, but at every show, people would be like, what was that song, that Faraway song? And I was like, oh yeah, that's what, So it's cool to see what people gravitate towards. A lot of people have seen death in that song, and I think any kind of conduit into grief can be so powerful. So, that record's incredibly watery and emotional, and was at a time in my life when there was just so much flow to the urgency of saying yes to things and creating things. And with that record, I was able to really step into touring solo. And, with August, the next record, I was able to quit my job. So I was I was on this trajectory that like I didn't really expect, but just, I was just pulling the thread. I was just like, what's down this rabbit hole? I guess it's that, like, if you're familiar with the tarot, like that Fool energy. It's
Yes.
that kind of, you're like, that record has this like feeling of being at the precipice of something. We're constantly just cycling through that whole hero's journey. So, it's nice. I think that phase in particular, music is such a nice helper, because it's an easy way to just like unwind with yourself and feel connected and not alone, Yeah.
And then with Geist, the sound feels almost a bit more expansive and layered in certain ways. So when you were making that album, were you consciously trying to push your sound somewhere new?
I mean, that one I think was really a response to being isolated. And at the time going through my Saturn return, which if you're unfamiliar, is just kind of the period like 27 to 33, really. There's this chunk of time where I think you really face your ego, you face your identity for the first time. And I felt very lucky to be in such an isolated moment to an extent because I just became a complete puddle of a person. I could not have gone out and been like, hi, like I couldn't have gone out and faked it. So it was a unique opportunity. And out of that kind of dismissal of so many of these pieces that had been with me for so long. Geist in German means spirit, and there's something very spiritual about the place that I was in when I was making this. I was also doing acid for the first time. I had never experimented with that before, and it was interesting to feel the message of it ultimately was that everything was okay. In this time where nothing felt okay, there was this overwhelming sense that just stay the course, and I know what it looks like, but it's going to be fine. And so trying to transmit that into the record felt really important. And then also just exploring our ability to kind of time travel between the past and the future and be aware that maybe we've been more than we are right now, and then to also recognize that you've always been the person that you are going through what you've gone through. And, I think of Rare to Wake, where, I don't know, there's a psychedelic element to being here and being human. And I think it's important to stay connected with that because then you can just remember oh, this is just a trip. And sometimes trips take a left turn and it can get a little squirrely, and then, you just got to find your coping mechanisms, and it's just wild to be here. And I think with that record, it was a unique opportunity, just the environment that I was in, to explore that and to have such a great collaborator in Jarvis Tavernier. It was just me and him making this record, and then Ben Boy and Deborah Hoff, who Deborah played stand-up bass and Ben played keys. And I just sent them the songs and was spend as much time as you want with this and just send me back what you hear. And to have everything get sent back. And then Jarvis and I just spent 3 months mixing, and putting this puzzle together and getting all the pieces in place. And I had all the resources that I needed being with Sub Pop. There was just this feeling of ease, and, I could just really dream big with it. It's sometimes hard for me to do because there is this economical motivation to what I do. And playing solo feels tangible, having a band is a very, very big responsibility, money-wise, spiritually, emotionally. It brings in all these other factors that are one of the more challenging aspects of being here. So I think I tend to try and keep it small. The record that I just finished is the opposite of that. It was really leaning on my community. It was writing with other people. It's much more produced. It's much more out of my usual frequency. There was a lot of trust in, the people around me. And Geist, I think, was my first kind of foray into that, because I had, at this point, Ben and Deborah are two of the most incredibly talented people that I know. And to just hand them, this offering and with complete trust was huge, it was awesome. Yeah. So that record just has such a special place in my heart. It's, at the time too, my other collaborator was my partner at the time, Kai McKnight. We came together during the pandemic, and he was such a pivotal part of the visuals of it. So it was such a small team, and with Living Water, it was just me and Emmett Kelly, it's always so fun to feel the different containers that exist within a record. But I was lucky to have Geist during that weird ass time. I was really lucky to have it.
Good out. And then I know in 2023 you released the Covers Volume 1 album, and you covered one of my all time. I'm a massive Nick Drake fan, and you covered, what is it, From the Morning? It was I heard it was so amazing. So I was curious, what draws you to a song when you decide you want to reinterpret it?
With the Covers record, it had been, years of amassing them. So that one was pretty easy. Now that I'm working on the second one, I am doing a little bit more of that, looking for the right songs kind of thing. I think it has to be initially really easy. First of all, there has to be a really moment of clicking that happens. I don't like to force it too much. If it's not working, it's not working, And then I also just love to on this next one, I have a Slayer song and a Backstreet Boys song. For me, also very nostalgic songs and kind of putting my spin on it. And then also making something like Slayer, a little bedroom, groover. It's so dumb and fun. I love it.
I always get excited when I see people do different renditions of a System of a Down song. Someone took a System of a Down song and turned it into this elevator music pop. And I was amazing. Yeah.
Totally. I've seen this guy on Instagram lately who's been doing like reggae versions of stuff, and it's like
Yeah.
Star Wars is reggae or like Simpsons is reggae, and I was just like, yes, please. It's so good.
In 2005, you released Other Ways, right? The Other Ways single?
Oh yeah.
You're like, did I?
Yeah.
Love, 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 love this song. It has this like incredible, like cinematic, almost like Western type feel to it. And lyrically, it speaks about like love transforming rather than ending. So, what drew you to explore love from that perspective?
I wrote that song with my good friend Jesse Summers, aka Buddy Hollywood, and we really wanted a song that you could send your ex in like a very sweet way. You know, I hate this tradition of spending so much time and investment in someone and then just pretending like they never existed. It's a strange symptom. Yeah, we just wanted to make something that was like very endearing and sweet and a nice way to recognize that love does transform and you know, even for friends or family members, you know, there's these moments where we kind of realize we're on different paths, or your clearance level changes with someone where it's like, oh, this person's no longer my go-to, I have to move on or whatever, you know? So it's a nice way to just be like, I'll love you in other ways, but I think holding on to the wrong kind of love can be really damaging. So, you know, letting go of that, it's hard and it requires a lot of like compassion and grace and just, yeah, it deserves a moment of just being like, thank you so much, you know, for everything we learned from each other. Yeah.
It's way more natural, in my opinion, to end things like this versus abruptly. Like the person has never existed. I never understand that. Like a conversation should at least be had, but yeah. And then Flowers, you also came out with this last year, and this feels like such a beautiful ode to friendship and collaboration. So what was it like creating something so rooted in community, especially compared to your more like solitary songwriting moments?
It's been amazing, and I thoroughly believe it's why we're here, is to be in community and to be in joy in community. Like Flowers in particular was just like, we were all just hanging at the studio. It was like very casual, and like we decided to cover this song, which was Carly Bond, who has a project called Myrna that's absolutely fantastic. She had a needlepoint of this poem that her grandma had given her, and that's the lyrics to the song. You know, it was just this like kind of reaching back into like this ancestral energy and this nice reminder of the importance of having each other, you know? And like, I don't know, it's just one of the coolest things to see how people kind of hold the keys to different aspects of you and to meet people and yeah, feel that I mean, it's such a like weird, almost corporate word, but like the synergy of it, you know? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I also saw that you worked with Paul Spring. I had interviewed with him last year. He's such a lovely person. So I saw his name and I was like, oh, Paul, amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a newer friend, and I'm so enamored with him. He's such an ambitious person and such a sweet soul. My gosh, and so talented. Holy cow, he's nuts.
And then, so with last year's single and everything you've created so far, what feels the most creatively exciting or calling to you right now?
I feel this very like lawless energy in the air. And obviously there's like the shadow side of that is so highlighted just kind of in terms of what's going on in the government here. And I don't know what you're seeing trending in like younger generations. There's just this kind of like darkness that is like very ever present. And I think turning my focus towards the natural paradox and duality is that the light is getting just as bright as the dark is getting darker. What's exciting me right now is just kind of seeing how thoroughly I can cater my life to what I need, to what my energy needs. And I'm lucky enough, I quit my job in 2017 and have been doing music since then, somehow. Not somehow, I work really hard. It's so easy to dismiss it, isn't it? Like, I don't know, I do that all the time. I'm trying to recognize it more and clock it. With this next record, I'm gonna start a label to put it out on and just really like take the process and like hold it as close to me and make it feel as important as it is to me. and just try and find a way to build relationships that aren't so conditional. When I was shopping the record around, I mean, and this is quite like vulnerable, I don't even know if I should say this, but like when I was shopping the record around to labels, it almost felt like my seniority was a disadvantage. Like the fact that I had done as much as I have was a disadvantage. And that was a really weird feeling because I have seen such steady growth within myself that I'm so proud of. And so to have it be kind of dismissed in like a more like business sense was like, okay, maybe I just need to like really pour my heart into this and have it and see what wants to happen. And that's felt the most aligned. It's just getting closer to the process and also hopefully being a resource for others. I love getting older in the scene, and I love meeting, young people coming in and moving here from all over the world. Like, Los Angeles is such a great hub for creativity and for art. And I love that people call me with, and want my advice or just like, for resources. Like, I feel like that's a huge reason I'm here. And again, to show people that there's a different way to do things. You don't have to, I know a lot of people that like, because someone down the line said, oh, well, you need to make this much money in order to have a booking agent, or you need to have this many followers to get on a label. They kind of just give up preemptively. And I think that there's so many ways to go about it. And, defining your own success is like a crucial aspect of doing art and really like learning how to trust yourself and feel your version of success. Don't think that because it doesn't look a certain way, it's not working. You got to just like check in with all your areas of wealth and make sure that like, even if your bank account isn't full, like that you have, good people to talk to, you have, just that you can go for a walk. I don't know, like it just feels so rebellious to be at peace with yourself right now. Like that, So I think just getting closer to that is really powerful. So obviously I'm in like a shit ton of therapy and like just kind of coming to terms with what to me, it was an identity crisis to get dropped from Sub Pop. It was really, really traumatic in a sense because I do invest so much in my relationships, and there is this aspect of it when you're on a label where they make you feel, just like the most important jewel on the crown, and I love that feeling, but it is fleeting, so I think you have to like learn how to be your own shine and not rely on other people so much, not in like a toxic sense, but just in like a I don't need when Sub Pop did fall away, I didn't feel myself crumbling. I think they were like a crucial aspect of my architecture. And I'm so proud of having done everything that I did with them and with Woodsist and Mare and Do Not Disturb. All of these people that have helped me along the way have made it so at this point, I feel like, hey, I think I could stand on my own 2 feet and give this a try. And at least why not? So that energy is really exciting. That's the whole message of the new record is, kind of going past the discomfort that we're used to, the dissociation, the substance abuse, whatever it is, and finding the like lasting relief that's like really just beyond that. It's like just behind that, we can find something that we can wake up with tomorrow,
Yeah, it's such a beautiful message as well. We need this message in this day and age.
Yeah.
Congrats on the label. That is super exciting. That's so exciting.
Thank you.
Ask what's next on the agenda for you for 2026. So I know is the album that you mentioned, is that coming out this year?
I think so. I'm shooting for probably like mid-year, and then gonna do a couple singles, but it should be out relatively soon, which I'm so excited about.
Are you touring? Do you have any gigs coming up?
Yeah, I'm playing in LA a bit coming up. I've got a show at the Philosophical Research Society in the library on the 17th. That should be really lovely. And then I'm going to do a few shows with this guy, Isaac Slade. He was in The Fray, that band.
Oh,
and we're going to do the Troubadour, and then the Music Box in San Diego, and the Swedish American Hall in San Francisco. And that'll all be like end of April. And then in June, I'll go up to the Pacific Northwest and do some Portland and Washington shows. Yeah, really excited about that. Maybe even Vancouver, I'm hoping. But keeping it light. I think we need our strength right now. So I'm trying to be aware of touring is amazing, but it's a big energetic push. So
it's very taxing on your mental physical health and everything. Yeah. Selfishly, I was going to say, please come to Europe, but no, I understand.
Well, I was in Berlin not too long ago. I always have such a lovely time when I go there. I have some good friends there, and it's just the sweetest place.
Yeah. Yeah, I think those are the main questions I had for you, but are there any final words that you would like to leave your fans and the listeners with?
Take care of yourselves. That's what like came through. I think, recognize what you need right now, and yeah, like unapologetically give that to yourself. It's a really, really, really weird time. And I think if you need to check out, if you need, it's like unabashed self-care, like what, and sometimes distraction, like just do what you got to do to wake up every day, and know that like your kindness is the biggest middle finger that you could give to this whole situation. That's what's up. That's what we need. Yeah.